Hello, I'm Jan Shrevinsky and you're watching Break the Fake. They make them, we break them, and tell you everything you need to know. Ever heard the phrase, "the lady doth protest too much, methinks"? It's Shakespeare, alright, but any real-life examples? If not, then here is one. Enjoy.
In an interview with Time magazine published this morning, President Zelensky said he believes that some members of your team have been influenced by Russian information. Those were his words. What do you have to say to that?
Well, probably they have been influenced to get this thing settled because Ukraine wants to see it settled. I think they have to have it settled, and Russia wants to see it settled. And I think if I weren't president, this would never happen.
Whether Russia actually wants to have it settled, well, that's debatable. But anyway, coming back to the main subject, here is some context. Earlier on, President Volodymyr Zelensky indeed told Time magazine that, and I quote, "I believe Russia has managed to influence some people on the White House team through information." End of quote. Now, for his part, maybe President Zelensky could be a bit more diplomatic about this, since his forthright style is evidently a tantrum trigger for the US administration. Remember the infamous showdown at the Oval Office? That being said, however, he does have a very compelling point here. To put it bluntly, he's not wrong. Exhibit 1. This gem from Chief Negotiator Steve Witkoff. We aired this yesterday, so we'll keep it brief.
I think the largest issue in that conflict are these so-called four regions: Donbass,
Yes.
Crimea, the names
Lugansk, yeah.
Lugansk, and there's two others. They're Russian-speaking.
Yep.
There have been referendums where the overwhelming majority of the people have indicated that they want to be under Russian rule.
Yes.
I think that's the key issue in the conflict.
Story short, this narrative is 100% Kremlin-coded. Imagine voting in an illegal ballot under enemy occupation with armed troops watching your every move. Free and fair referendum? Forget it. Next.
In Ukraine, President Zelensky has already taken complete control of the media. He has outlawed his political opposition parties, and he has banned the second largest Orthodox Christian church. That wasn't enough. Now, in his latest edict, he declared that he's canceling the presidential elections altogether. We're planned for March.
Again, Tulsi Gabbard, and this is the spirit of Aloha, spelled Privet, apparently. Listen, there is plenty of opposition in Ukraine, just not the straight-up Putin proxies who got banned for a reason. Ukraine is at war, remember? Same goes for the Russian-affiliated Orthodox Church, which Putin has long ago weaponized. And the false accusations of cancelling the vote, which cannot be done during wartime. It's no conspiracy. It's called a constitution. Also, remember the dictator without elections thing? Yeah, that was Donald Trump. Only a few days after that, he literally did a 180 and called Zelensky a great president. So, it might have been tactical. Still, you can see the problem. Russian lies popping up like weeds in Washington. Except, for some reason, actually, people in Washington keep nurturing those weeds, like they were prized exhibits at the Chelsea Flower Show or something. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for the transatlantic alliance between Europe and America. Let's not get carried away here, though. Some folks got to the point where they call the US an adversary, compare Trump to Kim Jong-un, or call for cancelling arms deals. I don't think this is the way. But there has been definitely too much Kremlin speak in DC recently. Maybe some people watched the wrong stories, if you catch my drift. But if you want to know why Russia really isn't your friend, or anyone's friend for that matter, I'm ready to help. You can always, add me to a group chat. Another slow news day? Fear not. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has once again graced us with his latest stand-up routine, proving that his real talent isn't diplomacy. It is historical fan fiction with a touch of imperialist paranoia. Speaking at a meeting of the Gorchakov Foundation, Lavrov decided to recycle his favorite bedtime story, the one where Ukraine is actually a Nazi puppet state secretly nurtured by the West to launch a grand invasion against Russia. Yes, the same Ukraine that Russia swore would collapse in 3 days. The same Ukraine that Russia insists isn't really a country, but also somehow an existential threat to the mighty Russian Federation.
Не оставим без нашего постоянного внимания решение задачи денацификации того государства, которое остается под контролем киевского режима, законодательно и физически истребляющего все русское, язык, культуру, СМИ, каноническое православие в прямое грубейшее нарушение статьи 1 Устава ООН и международных обязательств Украины при полном попустительстве и пособничестве со стороны государств Европы, которые на всех углах, кроме украинского, как я уже сказал, кричат о своей приверженности соблюдению прав человека и прав меньшинств. Но Украина – это другое. Это выкормленные нацисты для очередной попытки поставить под российские нацистские знамена всю Европу для войны против Российской Федерации.
According to Lavrov, Kiev's regime was raised by Nazis and is now being used to bring all of Europe under Nazi banners for war against Russia. A bold claim from the same country that regularly decorates Stalin's tomb, rewrites World War II history, and holds military parades celebrating its past imperial glories. One has to admire Lavrov's commitment to his bit. He's been performing this same joke for years, and yet he still delivers it with the deadpan seriousness of a man who genuinely believes his own nonsense. Meanwhile, in the real world, Russia continues its charming foreign policy of launching invasions, threatening nuclear strikes, and complaining that nobody respects them. Strange, isn't it? At this point, Lavrov's speeches are less about diplomacy and more about therapeutic storytelling for the Kremlin's fragile ego. So as long as he keeps talking, at least we'll never run out of comedy material. Just when you thought Russia's paranoia about Nazis couldn't get any more absurd, propaganda maestros serving the Kremlin have now uncovered a new crisis. Canada is now a Nazi-infested stronghold. That is right. According to the Kremlin's finest, the Great White North is apparently crawling with fascists, just waiting for the chance to storm Moscow.
Вашингтоном и Москвой нет непреодолимых политических противоречий. Мы, конечно, не идеализируем Трампа и членов его команды. Это люди, которые работают прежде всего на США. Но когда я смотрю, например, вот эту вакханалию в Канаде, слушайте, ну это страна, где нацистские преступники, их встречают аплодисментами в национальном парламенте. Канада – это страна, где укрылись десятки тысяч беглых военных преступников, прежде всего с Украины, которые служили нацистам, были операторами газовых камер, прославились массовыми карательными операциями. Сегодня это уважаемые люди в Канаде, их старость оберегается, и, собственно, никто не портит им настроение. Поэтому я думаю, что вот Трамп, как такой здоровый, энергичный, по-хорошему консервативный политик, понимает контуры нынешнего мира. Его, конечно, надо разрушать. Того мира, который пытался навязывать свою глобалистскую волю всем остальным. Трамп работает на величие США, как говорится, американский флаг ему в руки.
And of course, Russia's premier propaganda storytellers couldn't resist dragging Trump into this fever dream, declaring, and I quote, "Trump understands the contours of the world. It must be destroyed." Ah yes, the classic burn it all down approach to geopolitics. What better way to solve Russia's self-inflicted problems than by accusing half the planet of being Nazis and then threatening to bomb them into oblivion? It is unclear exactly what crime Canada has committed in the eyes of Russia's propagandists. Maybe it's their commitment to democracy, the refusal to roll out the red carpet for Russian oligarchs. Perhaps it's the simple fact that Canada actually exists. Whatever the case, one thing is clear. For the Kremlin, there will never be enough war, enough enemies, or enough historical revisionism. First Ukraine, then Europe, now North America. Stay tuned, next week they might discover Nazis on the moon. Actually, if you showed them Iron Sky, the cult classic, they might think, oh, it's a documentary. we actually must act upon it immediately. And with this, we conclude this episode of Break the Fake. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.